It always begins with a small crack, one whispered rumor, one uneasy glance, one detail that doesn't fit the picture everyone wanted to believe. But this time, the crack exploded into a gaping wound the minute Charlie Kirk's secret note leaked. A note he wrote in the final weeks before everything spiraled out of his control. And the moment that note hit the internet, thousands of questions turned into one chilling realization. Charlie wasn't paranoid. He wasn't confused. He wasn't imagining things. He was warning us. The handwriting was unmistakably his. Shaky, tense, like a man writing with the weight of an entire truth sitting on his chest. And the words? The words were nothing short of a dagger pointed straight at the people closest to him. The ones he trusted most, the ones who were supposed to protect him. If something happens, look at her. Look where I couldn't. He didn't say Erika's name, but the implication was loud enough to rattle the timeline. Suddenly, every strange red flag in their marriage, every awkward interview, every moment that felt a little too polished and a little too forced, snapped into focus. People had already whispered about private arguments, sudden shifts in power, and the eerie way Erika stepped into the spotlight without a single tear out of place. But this note, this was different. This wasn't internet gossip. This was Charlie himself reaching forward from the silence to say exactly what he couldn't while he was alive. And the fact that someone tried to bury it, that the note was almost deleted forever, that a whistleblower had to risk everything to leak it, makes the entire story darker than anyone expected. Because the truth isn't just controversial, it's dangerous. And the deeper we go, the more unprepared you'll realize you were for what Charlie left behind. Charlie Kirk's story didn't begin with chaos or conspiracies. It began with a man who built his life around certainty, loyalty, faith, and purpose, believing the people closest to him shared those same values. But the deeper you dive into his backstory, the more you realize the foundations of his world were never as solid as they looked. Everything started shifting months before the note was written, long before anyone imagined Charlie would end up questioning the one person he once believed God had chosen for him. Friends closest to him said Charlie began changing in quiet ways, withdrawing from conversations he used to dominate, staring off during meetings he once commanded. They chalked it up to exhaustion at first, assuming the pressure was getting to him. But behind closed doors, Charlie was carrying emotional bruises he refused to show the public. He wasn't the same man who once boasted about never doubting his marriage, never questioning his calling, never wavering in trust. The cracks began during a late-night argument between him and Erika that a staff member overheard. An argument that started off normal but escalated into something that left Charlie pacing the hallway afterward, whispering, "Why would she do that? Why would she lie about something so small?" Those 9 words were the spark. Erika had brushed off a story about where she'd been earlier that day, a small inconsistency that shouldn't have mattered. But the way she reacted, the way she became cold and dismissive instead of explaining, ignited a suspicion Charlie fought desperately to ignore. And instead of comforting him, she blamed him, insisting he was paranoid, dramatic, imagining problems, pushing him into a corner where he felt guilty just for asking questions. That night, Charlie didn't sleep. A friend said he sat in his office alone, replaying every moment of their relationship and suddenly noticing patterns he had never seen before. Times when Erika redirected conversations, shifted answers, or shut down topics that made her uncomfortable. Times when she acted strangely close to specific men inside TPUSA, brushing off his concerns with jokes about jealousy. Times when she traveled without explanation, then returned with stories that didn't quite add up. And the worst part? When he brought any of it up, she'd turn the blame back on him until he dropped the subject entirely. That emotional manipulation cut deeper than betrayal. It made him doubt himself. And for a man built on confidence, self-doubt felt like poison. That's when he started journaling. Small entries at first, just reflections on stress, leadership, faith. But those entries shifted quickly into questions about trust, loyalty, and the feeling that something inside his home didn't belong to him anymore. He wrote about feeling watched, feeling handled, feeling like conversations around him were being curated rather than shared. Then he began writing about Erika's past, trying to understand the pieces she revealed versus the pieces she conveniently never mentioned. Her sudden rise into political circles, her family's odd connections, her polished public persona that sometimes cracked when she didn't realize cameras were rolling. The more he wrote, the more isolated he felt. Even his closest allies noticed something was wrong. He wasn't eating the same, wasn't praying the same, wasn't showing up with the same fire that once made him unstoppable. And yet, when they asked if he needed help, Charlie always responded with the same haunting line, "I'm fine. I just don't know who to trust right now." That sentence alone told the entire story. For months, he and Erika were drifting into two different worlds, Charlie's filled with suspicion and unspoken fear, Erika's filled with ambition, confidence, and quiet control. The imbalance grew heavier every day. There were tense dinners where Charlie would fall silent, mid-sentence, watching Erika's reactions too closely. There were private moments where he tried to open up about his worries only for her to dismiss them, laugh, or flip into sudden defensiveness. And there were whispers in the organization about how Erika had already begun stepping into leadership roles Charlie never offered her. Gradually, he realized the woman he fell in love with was not the same woman standing beside him now. Or maybe she was, and he simply hadn't seen her clearly before. His emotional world collapsed long before the public noticed anything was wrong. Friendships strained, trust fractured, and the fear of betrayal wrapped around him like a shadow he couldn't outrun. By the time he wrote the note nobody was ever supposed to see, Charlie was a man carrying a truth too heavy to speak and a suspicion too dangerous to ignore. And that's where the unraveling truly began. The unraveling began the moment Charlie stumbled across something he was never meant to see. Something small, almost insignificant at first glance, yet powerful enough to shift his entire understanding of the woman he married. It started with an unlocked iPad on the kitchen counter, open to a message thread that wasn't scandalous at face value, but the tone was wrong, the familiarity unsettling, the timing suspicious. Erika was texting someone on the inner leadership team at hours she never mentioned to Charlie, using phrases that sounded nothing like the conversations she claimed were strictly professional. "We'll talk more once he's asleep," was the line that made Charlie's stomach drop. Subtle but loaded. Casual yet cold. He shut the screen quickly. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt he'd been trying to ignore now had roots. He didn't bring it up to her right away. Instead, he watched quietly, painfully, waiting to see if the truth would reveal itself. And it did, but not in the way he expected. Days later, during a leadership retreat in Phoenix, multiple staff members noticed that Erika was giving instructions before Charlie even arrived, rearranging the schedule, directing speakers, and behaving like she was already running the show. A senior staffer pulled Charlie aside and whispered, "Did you tell her she's in charge now?" Charlie's silence was answer enough. That night, when he tried to confront Erika gently, she flipped the conversation instantly, accusing him of insecurity. accusing him of trying to limit her potential, accusing him of being threatened by a strong woman. But Charlie wasn't threatened. He was blindsided, because the more he pressed, the more inconsistencies showed up. The late-night calls she stepped outside to take. The meetings she didn't mention. The unexplained travel she insisted was for ministry, but never documented. People noticed. Charlie noticed. Even his closest friend admitted, "Something's off about her lately." And then came the turning point. The night everything inside Charlie shifted from suspicion to fear. It happened after a major event where Erika took the stage without being asked, speaking for longer than Charlie, receiving louder applause, and walking off like the moment belonged to her. Charlie followed behind her backstage, tense and confused. But before he reached her dressing room, he overheard a conversation. Her voice, low but distinct, speaking to someone he trusted, someone who had been with him since the early days of the organization. "He's losing his grip," she whispered. "And when the time comes, we need to be ready." Charlie froze. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. He didn't want to believe what he just heard, because that wasn't a conversation between a loving wife and a trusted colleague. That sounded like strategy, planning, preparation. And for what? To replace him? To take his position? To reshape the organization he'd spent his life building? He never confronted her about that conversation. He couldn't. Fear swallowed his words and replaced them with sleepless nights. But the universe wasn't done dropping hints. A week later, another staff member anonymously sent Charlie a screenshot. Erika had been asking about documents, permissions, passwords, and access to financial files that only Charlie was supposed to see. "Did you approve this?" the message read. Charlie didn't respond, because by then he didn't know who to trust. Anyone could have been involved. Anyone could have been helping her, or worse, controlling her. The paranoia wasn't irrational anymore. It was logical. It was necessary. And the deeper he looked, the more strange coincidences began stacking up. Meetings he was excluded from. Plans being made without him. Staff shifting loyalties in ways he couldn't explain. He'd ask questions and get vague answers. He'd walk into rooms and conversations would stop. Even his public presence began shrinking, not because Charlie wanted less attention, but because Erika was actively stepping into spaces he once held without hesitation. Every time he tried to reclaim his footing, she'd pivot, redirect, smile, charm, or dismiss him with lines like, "This is what God wants," or "This is where the mission is moving." And then the biggest red flag of all, one that ripped the last thread of security from under him. A colleague, someone Charlie considered a brother, quietly told him, "I don't think she's on your team anymore." He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes said everything. Charlie went home that night and wrote something in his journal that would become the most chilling line in the entire leaked note. "I don't think she's who I thought she was." From that moment on, Charlie's emotional world spiraled. He began questioning every memory, every coincidence, every unexplained moment in their marriage. And the more he replayed it, the more he realized he'd ignored signs for years. Small inconsistencies that should have been red flags, but instead became excuses he made to protect the love he thought was real. The pressure on him grew unbearable. He withdrew from friends. He became distracted during meetings. He double-checked everything. He second-guessed everyone. And then, one night, long after Erika fell asleep, Charlie made the decision that would trigger the greatest twist in this entire story. He opened his laptop, pulled up a private legal folder, and began drafting the separation notes. Not because he wanted to leave her, but because he needed to protect himself. Because something was happening behind the scenes, something he couldn't yet name, but he felt in his bones he had to prepare for it. And that's when the secret note was written. The note they tried so hard to bury. The note that revealed exactly what Charlie was afraid of. And the note that would make everything explode once it leaked. Nobody knows exactly who found Charlie's private journal entry first. Some say it was a staff member who had access to his office. Others claim it was discovered by someone who wasn't supposed to be there at all. But what everyone agrees on is this. The moment that note leaked, everything people thought they knew about Charlie and Erika's marriage shattered like glass on concrete. It wasn't the kind of message a man writes casually or accidentally. It wasn't emotional rambling or paranoia. It was deliberate, tense, calculated. It was written by a man who had finally connected too many dots to ignore. The note was short, only 3 sentences, but each one hit with the force of a confession and a warning. Something is wrong with Erika. I don't trust the people around her. If anything happens to me, this wasn't random. When those words surfaced, the internet froze. People stared at screenshots with their mouths open, rereading them over and over, because this wasn't speculation anymore. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't online noise. This was Charlie Kirk's actual handwriting, his private thoughts, his secret fears, and the kind of message a man writes only when he feels cornered. The timing alone made the note explosive, because it was dated 48 hours before he filed the dissolution paperwork. That meant Charlie wasn't just planning an emotional separation. He was preparing for something serious, something dangerous, something he couldn't talk about out loud. The divorce rumors that once seemed messy now looked like self-protection. The shift in his demeanor suddenly made sense. The paranoia wasn't paranoia anymore. It was awareness, and the people closest to him realized they had ignored signs that were practically screaming in hindsight. One close friend admitted anonymously, "I think he was scared. Not of the public, not of the organization, of someone close to him." The leaks didn't stop there. The same source dropped a second page, one that was never meant for public eyes. A list. Not long, but damning. 3 names, all with arrows pointing back to Erika. The first name was someone on TPUS's leadership board, someone Charlie had trusted for years. The second was someone connected to Erika's family's contracting network. And the third name was scratched out so violently it tore through the page. But the visible beginning letter made the internet erupt. It was either an R or an M, and either option sent fans spiraling into theory mode. Was it a political figure? A donor? A colleague? Someone Erika met long before Charlie ever entered her orbit? No one knew. But the fact that Charlie had written a list of names, all circling back to his wife, was enough to flip the narrative upside down. The leak set off a chain reaction inside the organization. Staff members began coming forward quietly, saying Charlie had been distant for months, avoiding certain people, double-checking schedules, rewriting meeting agendas Erika had already approved. One staffer admitted, "He stopped telling her things. He'd wait until she left the room, then whisper to us. That's not how a healthy marriage works. That's not how a stable partnership functions. That's how someone acts when they feel watched." Meanwhile, Erika's behavior during that time suddenly made sense to people who had witnessed it. Her involvement in key decisions, her assertiveness in meetings that weren't hers to lead, her growing influence behind closed doors, it all matched the fear written in Charlie's note. And then came the most chilling detail. Charlie had attempted to schedule a private meeting with a lawyer known for handling high-level security cases. Not divorce, not family disputes, security. His assistant confirmed he canceled the meeting the night before his death. Why would he need a lawyer like that unless he felt he was in danger? Not emotionally, but physically, politically, or personally. And why did he cancel? Did something or someone interfere? That's when a third leak surfaced. This time, an audio recording. A muffled voicemail he left for one of his oldest friends. It was only 12 seconds long, but it changed everything. "I can't say much. I just need you to know. If things go bad, look at who benefits. Look at her moves. Something isn't right." He hung up abruptly, as if he heard someone enter the room. The pause at the end of the voicemail, the way his breathing suddenly sharpened, gave listeners chills. This wasn't a man confused. This was a man terrified. While the internet dissected every syllable, every scrape of the background noise, Erika remained silent. No statement, no denial. No comment. Just silence. And her silence made the situation 10 times worse, especially because insiders claimed she had already positioned herself within the organization before Charlie's death, scheduling meetings, redirecting communication, prepping new teams, and acting like leadership was simply transitioning naturally. But nothing about this transition was natural, especially when Candace Owens stepped in. According to her, Charlie confided things to her in private, things he couldn't tell the people closest to him. She didn't reveal the details, but she said enough. Charlie was scared of something. He didn't trust his circle anymore. That line matched the note exactly. That's when people started connecting the timing. Charlie's fear, the note, the dissolution filing, the sudden shift in Erika's behavior, the silence, the polished appearances, and then the final leak dropped, the one that shattered everything. A staffer revealed that Charlie had changed his passwords the night before he died. All of them. His laptop, his phone, his email, his cloud drive, everything. And when Erika realized she no longer had access, she went into what witnesses described as a panic disguised as concern. That detail aligned too perfectly with Charlie's note. "If anything happens to me, this wasn't random." Because people don't change all their passwords unless they're planning something or protecting themselves from someone close. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't about grief anymore. It was about a man who saw something coming and wrote down the only warning he could leave behind. And once that leaked, the internet stopped asking, "What happened to Charlie?" and started asking the real question, what was Erika hiding? The minute Charlie's note leaked, something inside the Turning Point building shifted, subtly at first, then unmistakably. People who once walked with confidence suddenly moved more cautiously, speaking in hushed tones, glancing over their shoulders as if waiting for someone to intercept their conversations. Because this wasn't just drama anymore. This wasn't a messy marriage or a private disagreement. This was a potential cover-up, unfolding in real time. And the people closest to Erika were scrambling to keep the cracks from widening. Staffers began whispering that the transition plan Erika kept referencing in public had been quietly put in motion weeks before Charlie's death. It wasn't announced, it wasn't discussed, it wasn't approved by the board. It had simply been happening. Meetings were rearranged, budgets redirected, key figures replaced or sidelined without explanation. A senior advisor confided anonymously, "We all thought it was weird, but no one questioned it. She was acting like she knew what was coming." And once Charlie's note surfaced, that comment hit like a thunderclap. Erika had been stepping into Charlie's role before she was even supposed to. Before he passed. Before the dissolution paperwork was finalized. Before anyone understood that Charlie himself had been pulling away from her emotionally, spiritually, professionally. And the strangest part? was how seamlessly she slipped into control, as if the organization had already been conditioned to accept her authority. As if she'd been preparing for that moment far longer than anyone realized. Then things got even stranger. Members of the inner circle started receiving sudden warnings. Stop talking to Candace. Don't comment publicly. Do not respond to questions about the note. These weren't gentle suggestions. They were delivered like orders. Staffers said they felt watched. One even said, "It's like they're monitoring who we talk to and what we post." And who was issuing those warnings? According to several insiders, Erika's closest allies, people who had risen in rank suspiciously fast in the months leading up to Charlie's death. People Charlie had written down on that list. People who suddenly seemed terrified of what else might leak next. That's how you know the panic was real. It wasn't the public reactions that scared them. It was the possibility that someone else inside the organization had more of Charlie's private documents, screenshots, notes, messages, and maybe even something he never got the chance to reveal. Suddenly, a new rumor began circulating, quietly at first, claiming Charlie had been planning to expose something major within TPUSA. Something connected to donors, finances, leadership, and influence. Something that would have put pressure on the wrong people. Erika's people. The rumor grew so fast that the organization rushed to clamp down on it. Members who shared the theory in private group chats found themselves removed without explanation. Posts vanished. Accounts were shadow banned. Conversations were flagged as hateful conduct. But people weren't stupid. They noticed the pattern. Everything Charlie questioned is being shut down, one student leader said. And it's happening too fast to be normal. The panic reached an all-time high when Candace Owens posted a cryptic message hinting she had more information she hadn't released yet. The moment that post went up, several TPUSA insiders reportedly texted each other in full panic. Does she have the second page? Did she get his files? Did Charlie tell her something? Their fear wasn't about speculation. It was about exposure. Because the truth wasn't just threatening to come out. It was already leaking. And every leak made Erika's behavior look increasingly suspicious. People began re-watching old footage where Charlie looked uncomfortable beside her. They analyzed interviews where she overshadowed him. They shared clips where she spoke over him, corrected him, or gave answers that didn't match his own narratives. And when someone found the footage of Erika not remembering their wedding date, a moment she tried to cover with a rehearsed smile, the internet erupted with, "Look at Charlie's face. Look at his eyes. He knew." Meanwhile, Erika didn't address the leaked note. She didn't deny its authenticity. She didn't explain the timing of the dissolution filing. Instead, she appeared at events smiling calmly, speaking eloquently, acting as if nothing in the world was wrong. That calmness wasn't reassuring. It was eerie, almost too controlled, almost like she'd rehearsed every moment of her public presence. One staffer said, "She wasn't grieving. She was positioning." And then came the most chilling detail yet. An anonymous whistleblower leaked documents showing that a week before Charlie's death, someone attempted to access his cloud drive using an old password only Erika had previously used. Someone was trying to see what he knew. Someone was trying to see what he wrote. Someone was trying to get ahead of him. The login attempt failed, and after Charlie changed all of his passwords that final night, witnesses said Erika became visibly shaken. Not heartbroken, not confused. Shaken. Like she suddenly realized Charlie had locked her out for a reason. That detail resurfaced when videos emerged of Erika speaking at memorial events with a strange smile, tight, controlled, almost hollow. while the entire online community felt something deeply disturbing. She didn't look devastated. She looked relieved. By the time board members attempted to regain control of the narrative, the internet had already turned. Public trust was eroding fast. Questions flooded every comment section. Why did she need access to his files? Why did she step into leadership roles before he was gone? Why did she ignore the DNA questions? Why did she stay silent when the note leaked? And the most disturbing question of all, one nobody wanted to say out loud: what exactly did Charlie discover about her? Behind the scenes, insiders say the organization was in chaos. People were choosing sides. Some aligned with Erika to protect their positions. Others quietly slipped information to Candace. A few even threatened to walk out entirely. It was a power struggle, cold, quiet, calculated, with Erika at the center, gripping control tightly while pretending nothing was wrong. But you know what they say. The harder someone tries to control the narrative, the more the truth slips through the cracks. And in this case, the cracks were turning into fractures. Because a new leak was about to surface, one that would shake the story to its core. A message Erika never wanted the public to see. A message connected directly to Charlie's note. And that's where Part 5 begins. The internet had already been spiraling for days when the next leak dropped. An encrypted screenshot posted anonymously at 3:12 a.m., just long enough to go viral before anyone at TPUSA could yank it down. It wasn't a diary page. It wasn't an email. It wasn't a voice memo. It was a photo of a handwritten note, folded, creased, and clearly torn from a larger journal. A note written in Charlie's unmistakable handwriting. Fans immediately recognized the slanted loops, the tight spacing, the way he abbreviated certain words. One line stood out in bold pencil strokes that looked like they'd been written in a moment of panic, fear, or clarity. It said, "She knows what I found. I can't trust her anymore." The internet froze. Not metaphorically, literally. Comment sections stopped moving, then exploded so violently that half the trending tags on X were about Erika before sunrise. But it wasn't just the note itself that sent shockwaves across every platform. It was the timestamp written in the corner. 2 days, exactly 2 days, before Charlie filed the dissolution paperwork. 2 days before he tried to quietly separate from Erika without igniting a public storm. 2 days before his passwords were changed. 2 days before the unexplained events of October 10th. Suddenly, the timing wasn't speculative. It was precise, intentional, and terrifying. The public didn't wait for explanations. They didn't wait for PR statements. They didn't wait for TPUSA to release some sanitized version of events. They connected the dots themselves. And what they saw scared them. Because that note didn't sound like a frustrated husband. It sounded like a man warning himself, documenting a moment when the person he once loved had become a threat. And that's when everything spiraled. Internet detectives began analyzing the handwriting, comparing it to old journals Charlie had shown on live streams. Same style, same pressure, same slanted exclamation points. Others pulled up photos from the night before Charlie's death, pictures that suddenly felt like clues. Erika smiling too widely, standing beside him too perfectly, speaking in a tone that now felt rehearsed and controlled. And then, one final detail surfaced, sending chills across the community. The leaked screenshot had a faint shadow on the left side, a shadow shaped like a hand holding the notebook open. Not Charlie's hand, a woman's hand. Long nails, pale skin. A ring that looked disturbingly similar to the one Erika wore during her White House appearance. People zoomed in, enhanced the image, matched the silhouette. The similarity was undeniable, and the question that exploded online was brutal. Why was Erika holding the notebook containing a message warning about her? Theories split in every direction. Some believed Erika found the note after Charlie passed and tried to destroy it, but someone snapped a photo first. Others believed she'd been aware of Charlie's suspicions and was monitoring his writing. A darker theory claimed she'd had the note in her possession long before the tragedy and never expected it to leak. But the most dangerous theory was the one former staffers whispered privately. Someone close to her is leaking. That possibility terrified the organization. Because if someone inside Erika's trusted circle was slipping evidence into the public, then no amount of PR spin, statement drafting, or legal letters could contain the fallout. Online sleuths kept digging. They analyzed the background of the leaked photo, a marble counter with a faint pattern. Someone recognized it instantly as matching a backstage green room used during TPUSA events. That meant the note wasn't snapped in a home. It wasn't taken secretly in some unknown location. It was photographed inside Charlie's own workplace, somewhere he should have been safe, somewhere Erika had unrestricted access. Fans began rewatching her speeches, hunting for any sign of guilt, discomfort, or nervousness. But Erika remained eerily calm in every clip. Too calm. Not a single stutter. Not a tear. Not one moment where her voice cracked. Not a second where she looked shaken by the accusations building around her online like a tidal wave. Instead, she did what she always did, posted Bible verses, shared perfectly lit photos of her children, spoke about faith and healing, and acted as if nothing explosive had just emerged. The lack of reaction spoke louder than denial. Meanwhile, anonymous insiders claimed Charlie had been researching something before he wrote that note. Something tied to financial decisions. Leadership changes. People being hired without his approval. Donor circles expanding in unusual directions. One message from a whistleblower said, "Charlie discovered something he wasn't supposed to. He wrote that note because he knew she would find out." That message spread like gasoline meeting fire. Suddenly, people were asking questions that hit at the core of the scandal. What exactly did Charlie find? Who else knew about it? And why did Erika react so violently when Candace Owens tried to speak on his behalf? But then another detail dropped, one that made even the skeptics sit up straight. One staffer revealed that after Charlie's death, Erika asked IT to recover and preserve his cloud files due to sentimental value. That request didn't sound sentimental at all. It sounded strategic, especially since she asked before the family even confirmed what parts of his estate would be transferred to whom. At the same time, TPUSA board members released statements urging unity, civility, and respect, all while avoiding direct answers to the scandal burning through the internet. They weren't addressing the note. They weren't addressing Erika's role. They weren't addressing Charlie's suspicions or his dissolution filing. They were simply playing for time. People noticed. People got louder. People started tagging public figures demanding transparency. They started demanding the unedited investigative file. They demanded the board release Charlie's statements from the month before his death. And while everyone's eyes were laser-focused on TPUSA's next move, yet another leak hit. A short text allegedly from Charlie to a confidant. It read, "If anything happens, tell the truth. Don't let them rewrite me." That was it. That was the match that ignited the entire internet. Because suddenly, the note wasn't a mystery. It was a message, a warning, a plea, a final request. And the people he trusted, fans, friends, supporters, felt obligated to honor it. Overnight, a movement began forming online. Release Charlie's files. What did Charlie find? Honor the note influencers joined. Commentators joined. Even former TPUSA members began speaking about red flags, strange decisions, and shifts in leadership no one understood. And in the center of it all stood Erika, silent, polished, smiling, while the world demanded to know the truth she'd worked so hard to bury. But the most disturbing part is this: despite all the leaks, all the notes, all the whispers, the biggest revelation Charlie left behind hasn't been released yet. And when it drops, it won't just shake TPUSA. It will shake everyone involved. Because Charlie didn't just write about fear. He wrote a name. And that name is coming next. Just when the internet thought it had uncovered everything, every screenshot, every whispered detail, every shadow in Charlie's final months, the last leak hit like a meteor, catching even the most jaded followers off guard. The message came from an anonymous account that had only ever posted twice before, both times with information that later proved genuine. This time, the post contained a single blurred image and one terrifying sentence. This is the page they tried to destroy. Within hours, the image was enhanced, sharpened, and circulated across every corner of social media until the words were impossible to deny. It was from the same notebook as Charlie's earlier note, the same slanted handwriting, the same frantic pressure pressed into the page. But this time, it wasn't a warning. It was a revelation. A full paragraph written in the middle of the page read, "Erika hasn't been honest with me. I found what she hid at the office. This changes everything. I know now who she's been talking to." And underneath it, circled 3 times in dark pencil, was a single name. Not a staffer, not a donor, not a political rival. No, this name was someone no one ever expected. Someone who had been standing beside Charlie and Erika publicly for years. Someone who always appeared supportive, loyal, almost protective of their marriage. Someone who presented himself as a family friend. The name written was MM. The internet erupted instantly because in this circle, those initials only matched one person: Mikey McCoy, the last person seen with Charlie before he collapsed. The man who walked away from him calmly, phone to his ear, without a flicker of panic. The man who later positioned himself as one of the grieving friends supporting Erika, even attending events at her side. The man who had become unusually influential inside TPUSA in the weeks before Charlie's death. Screenshots resurfaced immediately. Erika praising Mikey as awesome. Moments where she touched his arm a little too comfortably. Clips of them exchanging long glances at events when they thought cameras weren't paying attention. Suddenly, the hug with J.D. Vance didn't look like the strangest moment anymore. Suddenly, Erika's silence made more sense. And suddenly, the restraining order against Candace Owens wasn't a reaction. It was a strategy, an attempt to stop Candace from getting her hands on the very note that just leaked. But the story twisted even deeper when users zoomed into the bottom corner of the page and found something almost impossible to believe. A second line, faintly erased but still visible under the pencil strokes, read, "If something happens to me, it won't be an accident." That line broke the internet in half, because it wasn't written by a paranoid man. It was written by someone who understood exactly how much danger he was in. Someone who realized too late that the betrayal he feared wasn't theoretical. It was unfolding in real time. And now that Mikey's initials were exposed, people began looking back through old footage with fresh eyes. The way he always hovered behind Erika, the way he always stood too close to their family, the way he inserted himself into meetings, decisions, and events he had no business being part of. One former staffer even commented anonymously, "Mikey was everywhere at the end. Everywhere Charlie didn't want him." But the worst part wasn't the note. It was what came after. Hours after the leak went viral, the anonymous account posted again. Just one sentence this time. "There's one more page, and it's the one everyone is afraid of." That message alone sent shockwaves through the community because it confirmed two things at once. Charlie had written more than one warning, and whatever was on the final page wasn't just about Erika, it was about the entire chain he referenced before his death. A chain that allegedly involved more than one person. A chain he believed was working behind the scenes long before he realized it. A chain that might have cost him everything. And now the world is left hanging on the edge of the cliff. What else did Charlie uncover? What exactly did Erika hide? Why was Mikey's name circled 3 times? And what is on the final page? The one they're all scrambling to bury before the internet gets to it first. Whatever truth Charlie wrote in those final lines is coming. And when it drops, it won't just break the internet, it will break the entire story they've spent months trying to control. And now that you've seen the cracks in the story they tried to cement shut, the question becomes, what do you believe really happened? Because this isn't just internet gossip anymore. This isn't just speculation or theory. This is a trail of notes, leaks, erased lines, initials circled 3 times, and silence from the very people who claim to stand for truth. And if there's one thing we've learned from Charlie's own handwriting, it's that the truth doesn't vanish. It waits. It waits for the right eyes to see it, the right voices to speak it, and the right moment to tear through the lies. That's where you come in. If you've been watching this unfold, if you've been piecing together every detail, every contradiction, every shift in behavior, then your voice matters more than ever. Do you think Erika knows more than she admits? Do you think Mikey M.M. was just a friend, or something much deeper hidden behind the curtain? Do you believe Charlie saw the betrayal long before anyone else did? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't hold back. Your perspective could be the missing piece someone else needs to connect the dots. And if you're new here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications because this story isn't slowing down. More leaks are coming, more insiders are stepping forward, and when that final page of Charlie's notebook drops, the one everyone is terrified of, you better believe we'll be here breaking it down first. So stay alert, stay curious, stay loud, and stay with us. Because whatever they're trying to hide, we're going to find it. The truth always comes out. Always.